am Pat Murray. My husband Jim and I joined St. Charles about 10 years ago. We were both cradle Catholics, raised in Catholic grade school and high schools, and raised our 3 children in the Catholic faith. I have always believed in God, but it wasn't until my husband received a diagnosis of a very serious, rapid-growing form of lung cancer that I felt a profound need for God in my life. We had been married for 55 years, and I could not imagine my life without him. Our whole family, our brothers and sisters, everyone started praying to God for acceptance and strength, that we would be able to deal with whatever God had in store for us. Jim received 1 chemo treatment, and it relieved his pain, and he seemed to be back to his old self. We were all so encouraged and thought, wow, maybe this chemo is going to work. But that was not the plan. About a week later, he started to go downhill very rapidly. The cancer was just ravaging his body. I know that it had to be God with me through that time, because I never could have done it alone. In the few short weeks while Jim was sick, we talked about many important things. 2 things that were very important to Jim was that he did not want to go to hospice, and he did not want any extraordinary means done. If it was his time to go, he was ready to go meet Jesus. We entered the hospital on a Friday afternoon, and immediately after they checked Jim in, they took his blood pressure and said it was dangerously low. Immediately, they sprung into action to start to revive him. I kept trying to tell them he does not want anything done, but no one was listening. They said they had to act fast or Jim would have brain damage. I was frantic. I felt this great responsibility to Jim to have his wishes followed, and I just kept praying to God, dear God, help me. I do not know what to do. When I could finally get near Jim, I told him, I said, they're saying the cancer is really bad. Do you want them to continue to try and revive you? And he looked at me and he said, I want to see Dr. Porter. Jim had great trust in him. He was a very Christian man, but he was also a very busy cardiologist. And I thought the chances of him being able to come to talk to Jim were nil. But miraculously, a nurse came in and said, Dr. Porter is in the hospital and he's on the way to Jim's room. I was so relieved, and I thought, God is listening to my prayers. When Dr. Porter came in the room, all the other doctors and nurses left. And Dr. Porter told Jim, it's not going to be your heart that takes you, but the cancer is very bad. And Jim opened his eyes and said, then I should let go? And Dr. Porter said, yes, you will go to a much better place. I know God sent Dr. Porter to the hospital that day and allowed him to be in the room with Jim at that time. After Dr. Porter left, none of the other doctors and nurses came in, except for one who said they were going to do everything possible to keep Jim comfortable. The next morning, my daughter Deb and my son Jim and I were in the hospital room, and Deacon Dave came in. Deacon Dave and Jim had been friends many years prior to us joining St. Charles, but had lost contact. So they were able to renew their friendship after we joined St. Charles. So it was so fitting that Deacon Dave was there. Deacon Dave started to pray, and a friend of mine came in the room, and then a minute later a friend of Jim's came in. We were all standing around the bed, and the EMHC came in and asked if we wanted to receive communion. We all received, and then she said, would he like to receive? Since Jim was asleep, my daughter said, could you just break a small piece off and put it in his mouth? So she did that. Deacon Dave started to pray again, and then my daughter said, did he just pass? That fast, after he received the Eucharist, he was gone. It was unbelievable. it's just so hard to describe. I've heard people say that their loved one has had a beautiful death, and I could never understand that. A death is you're losing a loved one. How can it be beautiful? But after witnessing Jim's passing, I know that feeling. And I know that death is not the end, but the beginning of a new life with Jesus. Since Jim's passing, I have found peace, and although I miss him terribly, I am so thankful that he is at rest. And I know I will be reunited with him again someday. My trust in God has grown so much. I visibly felt and saw God working in my presence through those days and weeks. It had to be God. I never could have gotten through it without his help every step of the way. My whole life I've believed in God, but it wasn't until this time in my life that I truly felt God in my heart and in my mind. Those 2 days were totally wrapped in God's love. My faith is much stronger, and I can totally let go and let God take care of anything that I'm feeling that I can't face.